everyone, and welcome to What's the Buzz, a program all about the Council on Aging and the services and programs that we offer each and every day. With me this morning is Carolyn Woodruff, Senior Clerk at the Council on Aging. Welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you, Kelly.
It's nice to have you here. And the first thing that comes to mind for me is Senior Clerk. It's a kind of a misnomer because the programs that you oversee really don't speak to that title, but we're going to break that down today and learn a little bit more about all the good that you do for the community. Yeah. If you could tell the viewers, how long have you been with the COA?
So I have been with the Council on Aging, it was just a year in August, coming from a background somewhat overlapping as to parts of what I do now as the tax abatement participant, tax abatement coordinator. Mm-hmm. I had a position where I had worked in the community for a number of years, and when I made the decision to leave that position, I knew that I wanted to work in a position that was going to continue to provide help to people, mm-hmm. and to make a difference. So,
and you sure are doing that every day.
Yeah. So, the position that I hold now is the position is actually tax abatement coordinator, mm-hmm. And we work together to create a space for the residents of Attleboro, mm-hmm.
To earn
an abatement on their property, which we can talk about a little bit more as we continue.
Mm-hmm. And that's been around. I was kind of surprised even in taking another look at the regulations, which you were very key in kind of revising those and bringing those up to what's real in 2024. This has been in existence since 2000. That's a really, really long time. And the amount of the abatement has actually changed depending upon what City Council approves, and it's based on the minimum wage, isn't it?
It is. So right now, the total abatement that a tax participant can earn off of their taxes is up to $1,000. In so doing that, what they have to do is they have to apply for the program, mm-hmm. And then they have to work a minimum of 73 hours as a non-retiree of the city. If they're a retiree of the city, it changes to 68 hours. Mm-hmm. So that does, again, allow people to have a credit on their property tax. And again, it could be up to $1,000 depending on the hours that were worked.
And that's in the following tax year that abatement is applied?
It is, yep. So it's applied as a credit the following year.
Mm-hmm. That's good. So people can basically do their budgets, their household budgets, mm-hmm. based on that. And the minimum wage, it seems kind of odd in the way that we have the terminology within that program, and you and I were chatting about this yesterday, that we call those folks volunteers when in fact they're technically speaking a city employee because they're getting the minimum wage, they receive a W-2 at the end of the program year, mm-hmm. and that's how the tax abatement is actually determined. So it's just something to note, certainly not anything that is terribly impactful, but
and generally when people apply for the program, I generally let them know that is part of the stipulation, mm-hmm. That just to make them aware so that they're not surprised, and then at least they have the education behind that.
They do,
to make the best decision for them.
Absolutely. And you've worked very diligently with some of the other city departments that kind of touch this program, personnel, assessor, treasurer, and the accounting department, to really formalize in a very good way and very organized way with onboarding the new participants each year. Can you tell us how that's been going?
Yeah, so it's been a real team effort. You know, I do work closely with those departments that you mentioned, but I think, you know, from where the program was when I started versus where it is now, we've, you know, been able to adjust a few things. But I think working alongside, again, those departments that you had mentioned, has been really instrumental in making sure that everything, that it runs smoothly. So there's a lot of communication between, you know, mainly human resources and myself. But we have, you know, a really extensive onboarding process, and once the applicants are determined, we have them come over to the Council on Aging. That's where we've had the meetings the last, you know, couple of times. But we have them come over and fill out the onboarding paperwork, and pretty much once that's done, then the participants of the program are good to go. And, you know, then we coordinate with departments within the city to try to get placement for these individuals. And then that's how they work off their hours.
And you've also worked very diligently in establishing new relationships with new departments that maybe haven't participated either at all or in quite some time. And one of the fun ones that comes to mind for me is the zoo. So they had an event, and you were able to get volunteers just like that.
Yeah. So that's one of the areas that we're looking to expand upon. I feel, you know, over this next year, is obviously more community involvement within events. And so that was an event that was sponsored by the zoo, and you know, again, we just placed individuals into that event to be able to earn some of those hours. We have another one coming up, a holiday stroll, which we are, I literally just placed this morning a few volunteers in for the next TAP program earning year, to be able to, again, work off some of those hours in that environment, to be able to you know, again, earn their time. And again, they're supporting the community and the local events within the city. So, and then of course we have some additional needs, like in the schools, our veterans department. You know, those are some of the other tasks that are that continue on a rolling basis. So there's a lot of opportunity. It's just ultimately finding the right person to fit in those opportunities that we have available.
That's a good point, because it's not one size fits all for people who have different interests.
Correct. And we want to, you know, I think as kind of the coordinator of the program, for me, it's important to, you know, place people based on their skill set, but also where they'd like to go. And so, you know, I really look when I'm looking at a job responsibility, I look at those things and try to make that a good match, because I think that ultimately just benefits everyone, you know. So
yeah, it definitely does. Definitely does. What's the cap on the program, and are we close to that? Because we just started the new program year on
November 1st.
Yeah. So this is technically your second year. And how many people have we qualified?
The cap on the program is 150. We are at about 132, I want to say, for this year.
Incredible.
So we have about 20 or so slots available that we could, technically we could fill with anyone that may have a need or an interest.
That's great. And the tax abatement program, just so folks are aware, this occurs within city departments. So it isn't necessarily, or not necessarily, it's not at all, in nonprofit organizations, because the point is to be able to give back within the city in the different departments that are operated, not to take the place of paid positions by any means, but kind of enhance things and give people something to contribute back to the community, as you noted, and in return, they get that abatement on their taxes in the following year.
Yeah.
And it's really throughout the state of Massachusetts, but it may vary according to municipality. So we're pretty fortunate in this community, in our city of Attleboro, because people can earn up to that $1,000. And can you give some examples about why someone may not achieve the maximum number of hours? Because that does happen.
Yeah. So again, some of the positions are created on kind of a rolling basis. So what that means to me is that, or the definition of that is that, we could put a particular person in a position, and then they could meet their hours, and then we would have an opportunity for another person to fill that slot once the first individual has met those hours. We often will try, if somebody say somebody accepts a position that may or may not, as an example, the Zubu, okay, that was only an allotted number of time, so say 5 hours. We would, once that individual had worked at that event, we would continue to look to see if there was other opportunities that they may have an interest in, whether it be working within a department or at another event, to try to get them to those number of hours. So the only reason, or one of the reasons why somebody may not meet those hours, is if they just decline a particular opportunity, or they've the opportunity, maybe they haven't accepted an opportunity until later in the year, but there's a lot of opportunity that is available, and so if they fall short, it could be for, even for personal reasons. They just decide that, I don't know, maybe they just want to take some time off, or they're going to be away or traveling, but generally, it's usually based on the fact that there may or may not be an opportunity as far as a fit for that person. And
they still get credit on the taxes according to the hours that they have officially completed, though, right?
Yeah.
So that's still a benefit, even if it isn't the full $1,000 abatement. Do we have, it sounds like based on 132, if I can do my math, that's 18, we have 18 available slots, so to speak. What would a viewer do in order to learn more about the program and potentially qualify?
Yeah, so what you would do is the person would reach out to me. I can be contacted at the Council on Aging.
Do you have a direct line?
I do, as a matter of fact. They can contact me at 774-203-1908, and that's my direct line. And somebody can just give me a call, leave me a voicemail message if I'm not there. I return the phone call, and I'm happy to speak with anybody in regards to the details of what the program involves. Generally, I kind of do a pre-screening at that point, just to determine, to make sure that there's a few questions that I ask in regards to before they come down and fill out the application. But then I would direct them to come to the Council on Aging and have them, I generally try to know when they're coming in so that I can actually meet the person, and then they'll fill out a one-page application. It's a very simple application. It lists the requirements of the program, which I can share that with the viewers. It's actually, you have to be a resident of Attleboro. You have to be 60 years of age. The deed, the deed, you have to have your name on the deed to the property.
Okay.
And you have to own the property for 2 years or more. And then there's a background check that we would do. But then, so they'd complete the application, and then, then basically it would be, I would send the application over to the assessor's office for final approval. I would, again, we would have a conversation. I would just determine like what interest they may have. There is a spot on the application that also allows them to check off what departments they might be interested in working. And then again, that application again goes to the assessor's office. Once it comes back to me, we go through the whole onboarding process, and then within a matter of probably a week or so, 2 weeks, once the onboarding paperwork is all finalized and the requirements are met, then they're eligible to be in that pool of people that we would look at to see where they could be placed. So,
and if it's a couple, say both individuals in that household, they're over 60, can they both participate, or does it need to be just one person?
So it's just restricted to one person per household.
Good to know. Good to know. That's great. Well, if somebody's still interested, there are spots available, and it just opened on November 1st, so please feel free to call Carolyn about that. So now we're going to shift gears slightly because you wear other hats. And we know that food insecurity is a challenge and a reality for many people in our community. And we're thankful that we are part of a collaboration with the Greater Boston Food Bank, which Carolyn oversees for the area, because there are other organizations that are actually involved in the main drop-off, and then it disseminates to various organizations. Can you tell us a little bit about the Greater Boston Food Bank collaboration?
Sure. So we work with Greater Boston Food Bank, again, to help with food insecurity for our older adults here in the city. We currently have probably about 100 people that we service. But what happens is on a monthly basis, we, again, coordinate with Greater Boston Food Bank. We have a drop-off at a local church, and that truck is offloaded, and then we kind of transfer the goods, if you will, over to another truck. And we actually have a couple of tax abatement volunteers that will come to, they load the truck up from the church and then drive it to our location and drop off the boxes at the Council on Aging, where we do the distribution. The two gentlemen that drive the U-Haul actually go to a couple of other locations within the city and drop off boxes there as well. So the program is, the people that participate in the program receive a 30-pound, a 30-pound box of shelf-stable items, and then they also receive a block of cheese and also a couple of items, produce items. Generally that's the monthly distribution. But what somebody would need to do if they were interested in applying for that, they could again contact me at the Council on Aging. There is a one-page application, very straightforward, simple questions, and that particular program, there are income qualifications for it. So the person would have to meet those income guidelines, and I can just share with you that the monthly income guidelines, if anyone's wondering. For an individual, it would be $16.32 monthly, and then for 2 people in the home, it's $22.15, and then for 3 people in the home, it's $27.98, so $2,798, and then it goes from there depending on the number of people that are in the home. So they have to be at that income or below in order to qualify. And so, generally what will happen is they fill out the application. I then in turn submit it to Greater Boston Food Bank, who processes it and makes sure that the people are qualified, as they say that they are. And then it's submitted, and then generally, that following month, if they're accepted into the program, they would be notified when the next delivery is, and we would make a phone call the day before to let them know that their box is available for pickup. And then they would have to be available to pick up that food box at the Council on Aging, or have a family member or somebody that they deemed that eligible proxy, if you will, to pick up those items on their behalf. We do not currently do delivery to anybody's homes in regards to that Greater Boston Food Bank program.
That's definitely a big help for folks. And we also have a long-standing relationship with the Hebron Food Pantry, and we know that they've been inundated because they do such incredible work and serve such a need in this community that they now have a waiting list. And we recently learned that Bristol Community College has another program available, which it was interesting that none of us knew about it, but now we do. So can you tell us a little bit more about what that is? Isn't it a drive-through program?
Yeah, so from what I'm again newly educated to this as well, so I'm not that familiar with it, but so from what I understand, it's a mobile food market. The requirement for that is that you must pre-register. Again, my understanding is it's a very simple application. They just want to get some background on the person that's applying for the position. My understanding, there's no income requirement for that one. That, from what I understand, seems to be more of a, there's a lot of fresh items, so I'm going to say more on the line of produce. I'm not quite sure if there's, meat options available. Whereas, again, referring back to Greater Boston Food Bank program, that one is strictly those shelf-stable items. But for the BCC program, I do know that they have a monthly distribution as well, and it's the second Thursday of the month. So if anybody was interested in finding out more about that, there's 2 ways that they can be contacted. There's their phone number, which is 774-357-2835, or they have you can go on their website, which is Mobile Market 1 at bristolcc.edu. So it's Mobile Market 1 at bristolcc.edu.
That's great, and that's contactless. They probably started this most likely during the pandemic and have continued it because there's such a need. And that's great that they're doing fresh produce, because let's face it, even with the farmers market coupons that we do each year, that gets people just so far because everything has increased in price. So this is great that folks are getting access to fresh fruits and vegetables. And then the other thing that we wanted to let folks know about is, in addition to this, we're very fortunate in our city that there are several community meals happening throughout the week and throughout the city, as well as food pantries. And if somebody is interested in learning more about that or having access to the list, they can call the Council on Aging and call our main line at 774-203-1906. And the other thing is, Thanksgiving's, what is today? Is it 2 weeks from today? I should have looked at the calendar.
Today is the 14th, so yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, 2 weeks from today.
2 weeks from today, and we've gotten, our friends at Bristol Elder Services had given us some information on availability of community meals as well as baskets. We do our own lists in collaboration with local organizations so that families can have baskets through Personal Best. And there are also other ones that are available, Thanksgiving meals that are available through the Moose Lodge Family Center. That can be dine-in, pick-up, or delivery. And they're located at 241 Thatcher Street in Attleboro. And the meal's going to be on Thanksgiving, which is pretty special, from 12 to 2. You just have to RSVP by the 22nd, and you would call 774-331-2836. And they have some specific hours on here, 3 to 8 p.m. on weekdays and 1 to 8 p.m. on weekends. And they ask that you leave a name, address, phone number of meals requested, and then whether you wish to dine there, pick up the meal, or have it delivered. Alternatively, in just about a week before that, at Good News Bible Chapel, another organization that we collaborate with and grateful to be able to utilize their space for our programming, at 235 West Street, they're going to be hosting a luncheon on November 20th, and that's actually the COA's luncheon, but that's a collaboration between our two organizations. And I'm not certain, Carolyn, we had a handful of tickets remaining for that, or are we starting a wait list?
I believe we're at a wait list.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's still worth doing if somebody is interested in that. So we wanted to make sure that folks are aware of those. But as we near the end of our time today, that went by very quickly, didn't it, Carolyn?
It did. Oh, yes,
I want to thank Carolyn for being here with us today on What's the Buzz, and we look forward to seeing you next time. And we have to clink our glasses, our cups backwards, Carolyn. And we'll see you next time on What's the Buzz. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.